so this is the video on order of operations, or BEDMAS. So you do exponents on Monday and Tuesday, and you do BEDMAS on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So order of operations BEDMAS, this is review. We did this for weeks and weeks. All of December was BEDMAS. So just remember, BEDMAS stands for brackets. You do all the things in the brackets first. Then exponents. You do all the exponents next. Then division or multiplication, whichever comes first in the question. And then when all of those are done, you should only have adding and subtracting left over. So you do those, whichever comes first in the question. So to help you remember, we use the BEDMAS totem pole. And it's written on page 6. The BEDMAS totem pole is written on your homework package. So BEDMAS totem pole works like this. You've got brackets at the top of the totem pole, you do those first. Then you do all your exponents. Then you see that division and multiplication are equal on the totem pole. One of them is not on top of the other. And that means that it's whichever one is written first in the question. Once you finish all those, you go to the very bottom of the totem pole where adding and subtracting are equal again. So you do whichever one is written in the question first. So let's do some examples. Take a look on page 7 of your homework package, and we'll do question number 1. So this is page 7, number 1. Now remember, there's a really specific way that you want to do these and how you do it in your notebook, because you are not going to have enough room on your homework package to answer these. You need more space. So I've got 12 minus 18 divided by 2. So I have 2 different calculations, and according to BEDMAS, I have a minus and a divide. Which one comes first on the totem pole? The divide. So I have to do that one first. The easiest way to do this is if you underline the thing that you're working on right now. So I'm only doing 18 divided by 2. So over on the other side of my page, I do an outside calculation. I have to make sure that I have enough room over here to be able to do the calculations that I need to answer the questions. Now remember, 18 divided by 2, if I need to write that in long division, I need to put the 2 on the outside and the 18 on the inside of my long division. So whenever you see a divide in a question, BEDMAS, you need to flip those numbers in your outside calculations. So 2 goes into 18. If you look down your 2's on your multiplication chart, you'll get to 18. So I know that 2 can go into 18 evenly. And then if you look on the side of your multiplication chart, you'll find out how many times can 2 go into 18? 9. Because 9 times 2 is 18. So I take that 9 that I found out, I solved that part in my outside calculations, I take that 9 and I put it back inside my question. But you want to make sure that you put it where the problem was. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you just stick a 9 right here, that's not where it goes. It has to go where the 18 and the 2 were. So you write your equal sign on the next line down, and then you have your 12 minus, and this is where you put your 9. If you put your 9 right next to the equal sign, it's not going to work. Whatever the question is that you solved, that's where the answer has to go. So I've got 12 minus 9. I have no choice. I have to minus. It's the only thing I have left. So 12 minus 9 is 3. So I go back over to my question and I write my answer. So just remember how we did this back in December. You write out the question. You underline the thing that you're going to do first based on the BEDMAS totem pole. You do the outside calculation to find the answer. And then you take that answer and you put it exactly where the question was. And then you now have a new question to do. And you take that answer and you put it back in the question. So there's a lot of steps with BEDMAS, but as long as you follow the BEDMAS totem pole and you go step by step, you should be able to get to the right answer, because you're really just focusing on one calculation at a time over in your outside calculations. All right, so we're going to do 2 more examples, and these ones are going to be a little bit more complicated. So let's skip on over to page 8. So if you take a look at page 8, these ones have decimals. So let's do number 17. Number 17 has brackets and exponents, and that's 18. That's not a 7. I don't know why the board does this sometimes. There we go. So plus 18 and 1/10. So according to my BEDMAS totem pole, brackets come first. Before I do anything else, I have to answer the stuff inside the brackets. And that is 8 minus 3. So over in your outside calculations, you take your 8 and you minus 3, and you have 5. So you take that 5 and you put it where the brackets used to be. So I've got 5 to the power of 2 plus 18 and 1/10. Now I've done my brackets, they're gone, I solved them. But now I need to solve my exponent, because according to BEDMAS totem pole, it goes brackets, then exponent. So I underline 5 to the power of 2, and in my outside calculations, I do an exponent, just like I did before. I know how to do exponents by now, I've practiced lots of times. 5 times 5 is 25. So that's the answer to my exponent, my solution. So I go back to my question, and instead of the exponent, I write 25 plus 18 and 1/10. Now I've got to add. It's the only calculation left, so I know that that's what I have to do. But remember, when you're adding and subtracting, you need to make sure that both of them have decimals, or neither of them have decimals, but they have to match one way or the other. So because 18 and 1/10 has a decimal, 25 does not have a decimal, I'm going to give 25 a decimal so that I can line up those decimals and make sure that I'm adding correctly. So remember, you put your decimal, put your add sign and your decimal in your answer. And then remember, we build our numbers around the decimals. So the first one's 25, the 5, and the 2. And the next one is 18 and 1/10. So remember, if I have some empty spaces after the decimal, I need to put a 0. Now I've got all my place values lined up, my decimals are lined up, and I can add, and I know that I'm going to get the right answer. So 0 plus 1 is 1, 5 plus 8 is 13, carry your 1. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So I've got 43 and 1/10 as my final answer. All right, so there's a good example of, we've got brackets, we solved the brackets, we've got exponents, we solved the exponents, and then we had adding, we solved that. And we followed the BEDMAS totem pole all the way. All right, we're gonna do one more example, and it's all the way on page, oh, maybe I didn't include those ones. Oh, I did. Okay, all the way on page 14. Now these ones are obviously the last page. They're the most complicated, but again, if you follow the BEDMAS totem pole and you just look at it step by step, calculation by calculation, you'll be fine. So we are going to do number 27 on page 14. So I have 3 to the power of 2, and I've got plus 3 times 2 divided by 4 times 5 minus 5. All right, so I know it looks kind of weird, almost like a weird fraction, but this symbol here actually means divided by. But when it's written like this, you must leave that divide for the end. So we're going to solve the top first, then we're going to solve the bottom, and then we'll do the divide. So make sure you've got room for your outside calculations. And of course, the first thing we're going to do is our exponent. We don't have any brackets, so the next thing on our BEDMAS totem pole is the exponent. So 3 to the 2 really means 3 times 3, which is 9. So I go back to my question. So now I've got 9 plus 3 times 2 divided by 4 times 5 minus 5. So now I'm going to do, look at the BEDMAS totem pole, I have a choice between a times and a plus. So on my BEDMAS totem pole, my times comes before my plus. It's higher up on the totem pole, so I have to do the times first. So I'm going to do my times first. 3 times 2, which is 6. So I go back to my question, I add that in again. 9 plus 6 divided by 4 times 5 minus 5. All right, so my last thing on the top is 9 plus 6. I have no choice, that's what I have to do. So 9 plus 6 is 15. So I'm gonna move the board, but don't forget with these videos, you can always pause and rewind if you need to. So I'm gonna go back to my question. Now I've got 15 on the top, and now I can start answering the bottom. 4 times 5 minus 5. So let's think about this. I have a times and a minus. What comes first? Look at your BEDMAS totem pole. I have a times and a minus. So I have to do the times first. That's what the totem pole tells me to do. So 4 times 5, which is 20. So my 15 stays the same on the top. And now I've got 20 minus 5. So neither one of them have decimals, so I don't need to give them decimals. The only time you need to do that is when you're adding and subtracting and one of them already has a decimal. All right, so 20 minus 5, don't forget to borrow. You can't take 5 away from 0, but you can take 5 away from 10. 10 minus 5 is 5. 1 minus nothing is 1. So I end up with 15 divided by 15. So I know that this is a weird way of doing your BEDMAS, because you would think you'd want to do your divide since it comes before you're adding and subtracting. But when it's written like this, when it's written like a fraction, you leave that divide to the very, very end. So now I've got 15 divided by 15, and if you look down your multiplication chart, 15 goes into 15 evenly 1 time. 1 times 15 is 15. So my final answer is 1. So that's one of the more complicated ones. And like I say, it's not until you get to page 14. It's not until you get to there that you have to do those kind. But just remember, I know it seems overwhelming and complicated, but really you're just doing one calculation at a time. I know you can do 4 times 5, you've done it before. So ignore all the rest of the stuff and just focus on each single little calculation. And if you need help, let me know.